the New York Times, of all places, had a decent article about AI writing.
Yeah.
And the idea that AI writing is bland, uninspiring, flat, one-dimensional, because the nature of AI, it smooths out all the differences, it smooths out all of the idiosyncrasies, and it adopts the kind of median tone of writing, professional writing, technical writing, pop culture writing. Even if you ask the AI to adopt a certain tone, it will do so in a inevitably derivative way. First question, do you use AI on a frequent basis? How do you use it? And have you noticed this problem?
Yeah, so real quick, the article was written by Sam Criss, and credit where credit's due. Sam Criss is a good writer. And so one interesting thing about the article is he sort of front loads it with like AI writing, and then he transitions into his own writing. And you can see like this very clear difference between what a good writer looks like versus what AI writing looks like. And so, okay, I think AI writing has a use case, and I do use it, although I've been finding myself using it less and less rather than more and more. So when I first started experimenting with ChatGPT, I thought, oh, here's like a good way for me to write these like random emails. You have to go through hundreds of emails and you want them to sound sort of like professional and have a certain polish. And actually the goal is to erase your personality from certain kinds of writing. And there are certain kinds of writing where the intention actually is to erase the personality from it. You want it to be as neutral as possible. And in those cases, I think it can be useful, although it still needs a human touch, because the trick is, while you want it to have the sort of polish of AI writing, you don't want it to be transparently obvious that it is AI writing. That turns people off. That suggests that you're like cutting corners, that you're not involved. And it's actually like a signal of incompetence in some sense. It's the default sound or voice of people who don't have talent, who can't do things on their own. So in some way,
it's also disrespect to your interlocutor, right? It's saying you're not worth writing an actual email to. I'm delegating that to a computer.
That's right. That's right. So it shows like, this lack of care, et cetera. But it's becoming the default voice of stupidity. Okay, it's like the baseline now, above which anybody who can write like at a level above that now has more value. So there's this interesting thing happening where AI has replaced the need for like the lowest or like mid-tier level of communicator. What it's done is radically increased the value of anybody who can write sort of like above that baseline voice. And so one thing is happening is it's becoming increasingly common and increasingly easy to see, especially if you use it. It starts to become really obvious, and it's everywhere. I am seeing it everywhere. I am seeing it in published books. I am seeing it or hearing it in like tons of ad copy, even for really prominent companies that obviously have huge marketing departments. They're leaning on like these sort of tripartite, like adjectival phrases. There's the it's X, not Y, or it's not X, it's Y construction. There's all these like sort of syntactical signals that are giveaways. But it's also making me attuned to people who can write really well. And I find myself gravitating towards those people. So I think I will still use it. It's very useful as a research tool. I think it's very helpful and sort of aggregating a lot of information, distilling it down into a few like useful points, and helping to construct sort of arguments and through lines, and maybe even inducing certain kinds of analysis that might have otherwise been sort of difficult to come by on your own. So I find it as a useful sort of brainstorming or thinking tool, but it's a terrible writer, frankly, and I don't use it for that much anymore. How about yourself?
Yeah, definitely not for writing, terrible writing. It's good for discovery. It's at least a good starting point for some discovery. I think for certain tasks, it's better than a Google search or a search engine search. And my hope with AI is that it would provide an undergraduate level research assistant. That was really my big hope. It's like, all right, can this essentially serve as a undergraduate level research assistant? And in some cases it can. So if you load it with a bunch of PDFs, you buy some books as PDFs, you load it into the system, you ask it to summarize the chapters or retrieve specific bits of information. Hey, figure out, all of the things related to what happened in 1763 in these 5 books, provide me page citations, just so you can speed up the identification, summarization, information retrieval. It does fairly well in that, maybe comparable to an undergraduate research assistant. But even on the information discovery, I found that it is like an unreliable undergraduate where it can summarize a lot. It can write you, things that seem fairly good, well. And then, of course, like an undergraduate research assistant, you double check the work and you realize that the AI like makes up 30% of the things that it's telling you. And so I think I still feel hopeful for it. I still feel that it is going to eventually replace Google search. The AI will become the default method of summarizing information, searching for information. And I recognize, of course, it's a technology that's still in its infancy. It seems like something that has huge potential. But I just see it slowing down in its improvement. I see it still having some fundamental flaws that would prevent it from being a trustworthy object of delegation. So, delegating to an AI is like, man, you're going to really royally screw up a fairly high percentage of the time. And so maybe I guess if they build $500 billion or $1 trillion of data centers, maybe it will get there. But I think that I remain somewhat skeptical, reasonably skeptical. And I remain extremely skeptical of the AI doomers or AI fatalists who think that this is like going to take over the world and the machines are going to be controlling everything. It's like it can't even format citations. I think we're a long ways away from the AI, taking over the world.
What are we extrapolating from this? Because there's two different paths here. One path is, it's like chess. And eventually, because people said all the same stuff about chess when like Gary Kasparov was playing Deep Blue or whatever, the IBM computer, and they came to a draw. And the idea was, well, okay, yes, computers are really good at this, but still the best chess is going to be some combination of computers doing it with humans. There's going to be this human computer sort of merger, and that's going to be the best sort of chess player. Well, no, actually what happened was the computers just got much better than all the chess players. And now there's not a single chess player who can beat the best computer. And actually it's like not even close. Like computers are just forever going to be better than humans at this specific domain. So does that happen?
I think that will happen within domains that are comparable to chess, right? It's for the same reason that a great chess player is not necessarily great at everything, right? I think these computer programs that are relying on look, radiology, like reading laboratory slides, will be done better by a computer if it's not already the case. But there are certain kind of general tasks that require human creativity, human ingenuity. And I mean, we're not even close. So I guess it's like, will it replace call center employees? Yeah, probably. That'd be good. Will it replace like, TV writing, script writing? I'm a little bit more dubious about it.
So you're drawing the line at like creative enterprises. There's some like special quality of cognitive behavior that is creative, that's distinct from like some other technical kind of like cognitive
and it's not
activity.
mathematically reducible, right? It's not reducible to some sort of mathematical formula, and it's not reducible to the median answer, right? Okay, you're talking to Xfinity customer support. The AI can probably figure out, what your problem is and probably, help you in the majority of cases. But if you're talking about, some kind of artwork, I think at least the human being assisted by the computer is going to it's going to be able to do things and complex tasks that the AI will not be ready to do, at least in let's say the near to medium term. Long term, who knows? But I think the idea that, if we don't shut down all these servers, the AIs are going to take over the world in 6 months, just seems to me like not understanding how bureaucracies work, and then also overestimating the capacities in the medium term of the AI.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. This requires a more developed theory, but like any piece of art is fundamentally a manifestation of, or an expression of, like, the human experience, and it requires a human to best understand that experience in order to articulate it. A computer is just not human, therefore it can only mimic it. It can only sort of like mirror that thing. It can't actually do it. So I guess, yeah, any domain where the value, the cash out, the thing we care about is an expression of a human experience is ultimately going to be done best by humans. What we might see, though, is the computer like starts cutting off or improving above what some percentage of humans can do in that regard. Yes. And so you're only left maybe by the end of this with like 0.001% of humans do it better than the computer, but there will always be some human doing it better, I suppose. That's like the hope.
Yeah, I think, look, it's like the tractor. The tractor replaced a lot of humans in agricultural work, and that's okay. And I think this will be kind of similar for cognitive work. And so will it disrupt things? Yeah, maybe, although I think so far we haven't seen it.
Okay, bottom line though, please, if you're listening to this, like, stop using ChatGPT so much. It's really bad. It's really obvious when you use it. And the effect is, like, at least if I'm the reader, I respect you less.
A lot less.
It really makes me sort of like cringe and disregard whatever point you're trying to make. So please stay away.
I agree. And if you're trying to be a writer and you find that ChatGPT is writing better than you are, another line of work is probably find another profession. So that's good. That's a public service announcement.
Right.
I think it's very important. And we'll see. Maybe ChatGPT, maybe we're wrong. Maybe it will replace all of us, but it won't replace us this week. That's for sure.